Good morning and welcome back. It is now August 29th. It is unbelievable how fast this month has gone. It feels like we're really getting towards the end of summer now. I'm out in a barley field up here by Carmen Gay. Things are starting to dry out. I think it's been about 24 hours now since we had a thunderstorm. So the grain is, of course, ripe. We're just waiting for things to dry down a little bit. But all that rain has caused some germination in there. So some of the heavy rain that knocked kernels out of the heads is now starting to cause this volunteer to come up, which is not nice to see. So hopefully we can get this off pretty soon before that volunteer gets tall enough that it starts to give us a problem with the combine. Well, this hard red spring wheat is pretty much ready to go. We just got to wait for things to dry down. So everybody is sitting there absolutely waiting. There's still quite a bit of moisture on the ground here in places. So when the temperature gets up to about 30 degrees as forecasted today, it is no doubt going to be pretty hot and humid. Here you can see I just hand thrashed out a little grain sample. You can see that definitely some of the color has gone out of this wheat. It is a lot more cloudy in appearance now. That is not uncommon after mature wheat has been rained on. So that may or may not affect the grade. I guess it depends on how desperate grain buyers and graders are this year. Here in this field where we had soft white wheat silage earlier in the season, it has now been reseeded into forage oats as well as some brassicas. So these brassicas here are really starting to grow, but they are getting chewed on really badly by flea beetles. They should start to outgrow that damage here right away. If not, we might have to get these guys under control again. And you can also see we have a huge problem with Canada thistle in this field. There is very thick patches of Canada thistle, and there is no effective weed control for Canada thistle without also taking out the brassicas. Fields that have been swathed like these oats here are going to be a little bit longer to dry down. Even though it did help protect them from shelling out in the rain, it will keep the stuff that's underneath very damp and very tough, which it definitely is. So that is going to definitely take some time to dry down. Lots of swathing going on out here while conditions are pretty humid and the crop is tough. Even though this is a straight cut tolerant canola, it allows us to swath it a little bit later on. So these pods are getting pretty mature, but they're still pretty tough right now just because of that high humidity. So it'll be no problem getting all this swath today. The difference in these dryland seeded oats is kind of a fall grazing cover crop has been really dramatic in the last week here after we started getting rain. You can see the earlier emerged ones from about 4 or 5 weeks ago are doing much better, and we have a lot of new emergence that was not here this week. So a lot of this seed was planted 4 or 5 weeks ago, just starting to emerge now, and actually has some decent potential now that we have good ground moisture. For now, anyways. It's supposed to be 30 degrees all week. Well, after an afternoon of 30 degrees Celsius, things are really starting to dry down now. So there's a couple combines just getting started. This barley field moisture has just hit 13.9, so harvest is back on. Corn by Nobleford is progressing pretty well this week. Last week, although we did have a lot of rain, there was a decent amount of sunlight hours as well, so it did progress pretty well. So we are out of that blister stage now and into milk stage as these kernels begin to fill here. So these guys are looking pretty good for now, but they're going to need more time yet. A lot of the canola is hitting swath timing this week, and it's coming along pretty quickly now that we're getting some more heat. So this field here I'd like to see stand for at least another day or two prior to swathing, but it is getting pretty close. Some of these top pods are getting a little bit brittle, but that is due to insect damage, and the bottom pods are perfectly fine. So this field probably be at desiccation timing maybe the end of the week to early next week. Here around the Park Lake area where we got that hailstorm several weeks ago in this kind of more mature barley and wheat, you can see we have a huge volume of volunteer that is emerging now that we've had some rain. So right now it's all still pretty small, but we'll get larger soon. But we're going to wait and see what else is coming up. It's still a little bit early to be doing post-harvest weed control yet. Following along with that corn that got hailed on a few weeks ago by Colhurst, you can see it's still hurting. We're now coming into the milk stage, and you can see just absolutely horrific pollination on a lot of these ears. A large portion of the field over to the east is actually in pretty good shape and doesn't look much worse for the wear, but this west edge is just absolutely brutal. Well, there's lots more wheat starting to come off this week as things dry down. It's now Wednesday down by McGrath here. It is 34 degrees with a slight breeze, so stuff is definitely drying down really fast in this heat wave. Up here by Stavely, checking out a field of soft white wheat, and this stuff is looking pretty good in here, but there is a fair bit of soft fly damage in here. You can see some of these spots, there's quite a few stems on the ground. When you pull them up, They got that stereotypical cutoff right on the very end, and when you shave them open, they are all full of sawdust. Just driving through an area here near Staveley, and you can see the kochia in this wheat field. You can kind of see we have definitive lines running through the field, kind of headed northeast, and it looks to me like we have an escape of a resistant kochia in this field. So we're seeing the trails of those tumbleweeds as they blew in the fall and dropped their seeds. So depending on what was in this field last year, that's probably either glyphosate resistant or group 4 resistant kochia. Just getting started in this field. Here by Lethbridge, the corn is looking really good this week. It is developing quite nicely. As you can see, we got some nice size ears here that are filling out really well. We're just starting to build up some starches in there now, so they're still kind of milky, but there is a few solids in there. So we're getting there. A couple weeks away yet, but there is also a lot of bird damage showing up. This has been reported pretty widely. This is generally blackbirds are doing this. There's certainly quite a few in this field, and this is not uncommon to see, and there's not much you can do about it shy of installing scarecrows or sound cannon. Also, aphids are just starting to show up. So far they're pretty minor. Typically they don't really cause a problem. They're just feeding on the juices here on the outside of the husk, but something to keep an eye out on for sure. Well, today I get the chance to do the drone photography for Canadian Food Bank's harvest out here by Coaldale. So the combines are just starting to roll up. I got here about 20 minutes early. Got a pretty good convoy of trucks. Field has already been swathed, so they just got to pick her up. So it'll be interesting to see how many combines end up showing up. Oh, looks like somebody actually brought an X9 here, so this is awesome. My first chance actually seeing one of these machines in person and not on Twitter somewhere. So can't wait to get this guy on the drone. So far seems to be mostly John Deere combines showing up. There is one case in the back there, a couple of John Deeres. We got some New Hollands, a couple more John Deeres, and a Colossus. And I believe on the other side of that is another New Holland. So about 10 combines so far.